Listo, y estamos. Hey, hello, sorry, this is an English presentation. I just need to make the switch. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another network session with Workload. If you already know us, well, it's a great pleasure to have you here again. And if you're new here, you're super invited to this community. We have these sessions like 2 times a month. And what we mean with these sessions is to grow the community, just learn a bit more about what amazing people at amazing companies are doing. So you're invited to subscribe and join these conversations. My name is Sophia, and I'm usually the host of the sessions. And today we have our facilitator, who is Abdias, and he will introduce himself before we jump into the action of this session. So, Abdias, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Sophia. Yeah, I'm super excited to be here. My name is Abdias. I'm a front end and motion designer as well, and really excited to be in this conversation. And let me just introduce our special guest, Andrés Sanabria.
Hello.
Woo!
Hello,
Nice,
Andrés. Welcome.
hello, nice to meet you. Yeah, as you
Nice to
said, my
meet
name
you.
is my name is Andrés Sanabria. I'm a software engineer at healthcare.com, and I specialize on front-end technologies, but I also like to play with back-end and full-stack technologies. I really love the JavaScript ecosystem. I think it is really open and really wide, and there's a common joke that JavaScript went to places that it shouldn't be, but it's it's funny though. So yeah, I'm really happy to be here, and I'm really also happy to meet you.
Awesome. Great, Andres. So, for everyone who has not been here before, just remember that you can always comment and ask questions in the comment section, which you can find either below or on the sides, depending on what you're using right now. And yeah, so right now we're going to leave the stage to Andres, and we will be joining you soon to our post conversation. So, have fun. We'll see you soon.
Okay, thank you. So uh, the topic that we have prepared today is developer experience at unicorn companies. So yeah, let's go into it. Um, to give a little bit of context, I want to describe a little bit about the healthcare.com, the company I work for. So what we do at the healthcare.com, we are on a mission to help our users to become better healthcare consumers, right? In the US, the healthcare ecosystem has a lot of complexity around it. So our goal it really is to deliver and create content in a way that engages everyday users and really demystifies all that complexity around the healthcare ecosystem and facilitate users buying experience. We really want to help consumers to find the coverage that best uh, solves their needs, right? Because there's a lot of complexity in the healthcare ecosystem. There's a lot of rules that you have to understand. In example, your age takes into account, all your personal information, maybe your health conditions, all sort of things really take into account to make a good decision on what plan you should buy. So what we really want to do is um, facilitate users making those decisions and give them confidence that they are making great decisions too, right? So then let's continue. According to the title, we have to define two things. One is what is developer experience, and the other one is what is a unicorn. Let's start with what is the ETS. It really is the complete package of positive and negative feelings developers have while using or working on your product, right? If you are into the tech industry, maybe you are familiarized with the term user experience, right? How does a user feel when they are using your web page, your mobile application? For example, how is the user experience when they use Instagram, right? They scroll through the feed, they can like photos. What are the feelings that they get while using that product, right? So when it comes to developer experience, it's also like that, but in the point of view of a software engineer or someone that is building an application or some piece of software, right? So, what things can take into account to have a good and a great developer experience. Maybe some developers want to work on latest technologies, and that is something that they really like. So they have a great experience working with those technologies because they are top of the notch, and they can experiment and grow their skills in those technologies. For example, maybe other developers, they value uh, working hours flexibility, or being able to work remotely from their homes instead of an office. And all that takes into account on how is the developer experience of a company. And that is a really good summary of what is developer experience. On the other hand, we have what is a unicorn. So, in the most simple term, it is a privately held startup company valued over at $1 billion, right? So, if how does a startup's valuation works? The easiest way to think about it is that if maybe you have one company, right, and uh, you sell the 10% of that company at 1 million. So what it means is that the valuation really was 10 million, right? Because you sold 10% for 1 million. So if you want to know the um, all the value of your company, you will say it is 10 millions, right? 10 times 10. So a unicorn really is a company that is valued over 1 billion US dollars, right? And it is called a unicorn because it is really is strange into the market. It doesn't happen every day. Um, if you see statistics, 99% of startups die, and that's a hard truth. So if sometimes you want to build a startup, it's a hard fact that you have to face. 99% of startups fail because rather they don't really build a product that solves users needs, or maybe they just don't find product market fit, or at some point they are no profitable, and they don't have any more money to continue operations. So in the market, it is a really unique event when a company becomes a unicorn, right? It is like a barrier and a before and after in the face of a company when it becomes a unicorn. So how does it look like, that unicorn? And what I can talk about is from my personal experience working at a unicorn company that is haircut.com. So I think images speak more than words. So here's an example. This was the last team I was working with in healthcare.com, and this was my team, right? So this is a Scrum meeting. That what is a Scrum meeting? If you are a software engineer, is a daily meeting that we do to give updates. For example, um, I did this button and I built this component. I fixed this bug. I unblocked in this step, for example. So that was we were doing here. I believe it was like more like a retrospective. So uh, you can see the team. All of them are working remotely, each one from their homes. And what we have found by working remotely is that it really gives the developers more like sort of energy, or they are really more comfortable and happy to work in your company if they have that option. And also, other thing that is really funny when we are all remote and there's a lot of Zoom calls, most of the time we want to see faces because it's a little bit awkward if all the year you are just working remotely and you cannot see people's faces, right? It's a little bit awkward. So um, then so we always try to turn on our cameras so we can see people we can see their reactions. That human contact of really looking at someone else's face is uh, is is really important, because otherwise you feel a little bit awkward just talking to some pictures or some images in the Zoom chat, right? So this was my last team. It was a team conformed by three software engineers, one product owner, one engineering manager, and one QA engineer. So even though we right now most of the people work remotely, we still do have our office, and this is a look to our office. The first time I was in there, it was like it was really uh, a really cool experience, because before I just worked at really small companies, and then um, having the opportunity to come a company like this and seeing like all this cool stuff like the offices, seeing like the monitors, those fancy chairs, and the location of the office, it was a really good experience to me to for the first time having the opportunity to have that place to work. So I believe this photo is before the pandemic, and you can see all the people. Even though the pandemic is not finished yet, but it is passing, right? Where we are still working remotely. And other fun thing is that the company has grown so much that all the people that we have now in Guatemala, the office is not is uh, um, we don't all will fit in the office. There's a lot of people, a lot of growth, a lot of new hires. So um, uh, if everyone decides to just go back to the office, it will be not enough space, right? And that is something that really happens when a unicorn grows, right? Because the 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 f- the phase that it grows, it has to be so fast so it can really react to market changes and reach that product market fit. And on the right, I have one teammate photo. It is really cute because he is working at his home with his child, and you can see a lot of other benefits that we have found when working remotely, because um, there's like a lot of balance, work-life balance, when you get the chance to work remotely. Before this, b- without working remotely, maybe this image is not possible, right? Um, but now that we have those options, is 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 really motivating seeing this, right? Um, Also, some cool stuff like this. This is from the desk setup from a teammate, and it is really cool how she has set up his desk. It's not a normal desk. Is So you can see the beautiful view that she has with all this nature, and also his monitor, computer, keyboard, mouse, and you can really be creative on the place that you want to work, right? And yeah, if we are talking about developer experience, all of that all of that matters, right? It's not just about um, building things and being like a printer that outputs code. It is it really becomes to all the factors that influence the way you work. Meaning, as we were seeing before, how you work with your teammates, uh, where can you do that work with that allows you to output the best results. And then when all that comes into that, um, we go to the question, what about coding, right? So when you're building products and you're building startups, there's a lot of stuff that you can think of. Like maybe we want to do data science, maybe we want to do another web page for this specific use case scenario. Maybe we want to build a new product, right? So if you think about coding, there's lots of code, and it never stops. It really never stops, and we really need we as the time comes and we are keep growing, we need more things to build. We need more hands for the product requirements, and also for maintenance of the current running systems. So if you're worried about code, there it is a lot of work. And the tech stack, sometimes we ask as developers, I want to work on these technologies, or I want to work on this framework, right? And the tech stack at unicorn companies is always evolving, and it is in contrast to companies that have years and years and are stable, or aren't really in the tech industry. The tech stack sometimes becomes a little bit legacy, if you can think about that. um, and it doesn't matter the places you go, you will always find that piece of software or that piece of code that you can call that legacy. But we always believe that there's so much value on those legacy codes, or some systems that really need just a small maintenance to keep running, because at some point those systems really provide a lot of value to the business, right? And in terms of the tech stack, it is always evolving. The things that you learn today, tomorrow are going to be obsolete. If you think about 5 years ago, how we used to build web pages, it is a lot different from what we use right now. Before, we just had a server, some static HTML files, and we barely used JavaScript for some things. Then it evolved, so we wanted more interaction in our sites. We wanted the users to do crazy stuff with browsers, just because we found it. We found we could bring that functionality to browsers. So then uh, there was all this era of single page applications, and frameworks like React, Angular, Vue were born because of this interactivity they could give. And if you follow the story, there's always a next step that solves the previous step problems and tries to really facilitate um, the process of building things. So, in terms of tech stack, it is always evolving, right? So, what we try, at least at healthcare.com, is to keep an eye on those technologies, and when we see there's real business value that we can provide, well, by using those technologies, then we adopt them. Because everything that you are trying to build, at least it has to uh, take that into account. What is the value that it will provide? We don't just want to rewrite our whole site just for the matter of using the latest technology. If we are going to do something like that, there has to be some real business value and perceived business value that uh, it's going to be translated in profits, or in gains, or better customer acquisition, in example, or better user experience. So at the end, if you think about it, the tech stack is really important for developer experience, but but the most important thing is really to provide value to the business. And then is this hard reality, right? But wait, there's more important things that code, right? And that's what we were talking a little bit about before. That is culture, growth, ownership, purpose, of skills, exposure. How do you get along with teammates? So let's think about culture. when you're in a company or in a business, the culture can really make a difference. If you're in a toxic environment, if you are on an environment that you don't feel comfortable, you will not be able to do your best work. So, culture is a really important part of companies. And the hard thing is that it is really hard to build a healthy culture, because everything that you allow in a culture, eh, or there's a say that you can measure how good is a culture in a company, from the things that it allows, right? So, and it's really difficult to have a really nice culture in some company, because culture is about people and hiring the good people. So sometimes it's really better is better to hire someone that is not as such a master or the ultimate pro on some technology, but rather to be a good person, rather to be a good team player, to be a person that always tries to give that extra mile. So when working on a startups or any unicorn company or whatever company, culture is a is a strong, it's a big piece of the cake, because and it cannot be changed in 2 days or in 2 weeks. It is something that it is built from the ground up, and then you are proud about it. What important thing that I really like about unicorn companies is access to talent, because as they need to grow, sometimes they really need really good people and master people on the things that they want to build. So having that access to people that are better than you is really a blessing and not a threat. So getting the opportunity to work with talented people that come from other companies around the world, or getting just that opportunity to work with some people that has accomplished really awesome things in the past, is an opportunity one in a thousands, right? Because imagine just having once Slack message away someone who has built a product that millions of users use, right? That type of access to talent is unique. And with access to talent, we also refer to teammates, right? How do you get along with them? How all of us can work together. And exposure is other thing that is important for developer experience. Um, if you think about it, exposure is something that really helps the growth of a developer or a software engineer. Example, you really want to build strong connections with the people you know, or you want people to really um, have you in mind. For example, if you are working on this system for the company, having that exposure that you are the owner of that part of the product, or really making proposals, or those sort of things, that kind of exposure is key. So the people in the company can get to know you, you can get to know them, and it really helps a lot in building your professional profile to other people. So if they know you are a hardworking person and you are really good in the things you do, having that exposure is key. And there's other things like growth. And startups and unicorn companies are all about growth. They need to grow. So uh, growing for them would be impossible if they don't grow their people, right? Is the kind of investment that has some of the greatest return of investments, because if you have a team that is not growing, then you're not growing either, because um, you really need people to really have new skills, having new options, new creativity, new ideas for your business to grow. At the end, people is the one that build the things, not the business by itself. So if you grow your business without growing your people, then at some point we are going to have a problem, right? At some point we are not going to scale properly, or at some point we are going to face some sort of wall, because we are not growing as like as a team. So growth is something really important that you have to take into account. And if you have that mindset and you want to be on a startup, that mindset of continuous growth is the right one to have. And about ownership, so when we refer about ownership, is that you have the responsibility of something. So uh, t- take in mind, maybe you're building the landing page for your web page. If you have the ownership of that, you can really propose new ideas, think about a better way to build that thing, how to maintain the website, for example, in that scenario. So there, having that ownership and the opportunity to take something and take that as your own, um, is um, is fulfilling for a developer. Is it is totally different to work on something that you don't care, or you just have to build that because you have to that, and that is what is going to give you the pay. But it's a totally different story if you really care about something and you really put your effort into that. But that becomes purpose. Um, and this is really related on what are the things you are doing. What is the purpose that you are fulfilling while working at some place? Um, it really depends on people to on people own choices, right? What is the purpose of them? Maybe some people would like to work maybe on let's see, for example, education, because they like this idea to spread knowledge and communicate with others and share that with other people. So maybe they join a startup that creates courses. And so having your a purpose in the things you do is also a good booster in the developer experience of software engineers, because at the end they know that they are doing something meaningful. And at the end we have soft skills. So soft skills is, um, if you see recruitment and how human resources work, soft skills does really matter. It doesn't matter if someone is the best engineer of the world, if he cannot just get along with his teammates, or he is really maybe a bad person, so nobody wants to work with them. And so the soft skills really matter a lot. How do you communicate with people? How are your values? If you're uh, respectful, how do you treat others? The soft skills are the one thing that can open door that technical skills cannot. No matter how talented you are or something, if you don't really have some base of soft skills, you are going to hit a wall, because as I've said, soft skills are something that um, opens doors that other things cannot. So right now I would like to join a conversation with you, Sophia and Abdias, so we can talk a little bit more about this. If you have questions, if you have another, really other things you would like to talk about.
Awesome. Awesome, Andres. Amazing. I'm loving this conversation. I have lots of questions and comments. But I would love to invite one of the members of our audience because they already have a question, and it's regarding soft skills, which is the last thing you mentioned. Dain Dante, who I think is also a participant in one of our programs on software development programs, he's asking, what are the soft skills that are most needed in the market according to your view? And according to your team, right? What's the most valuable soft skill that you find? And I would love to mix that question with this one from Aldo, which is he's asking, what's the main soft skill that you would like to your team to have? So what
Yeah,
soft skill do you think is the most demanded, and which soft skill do you love most in your teams?
you know, that is a really good question because
Mhm.
sometimes we think about soft skills as a bunch or as a package that has a lot of things, but not
Yeah.
just one in specific, right? And sometimes soft skills are also related because you are a good team player, but you can not be a good team player without real good communication skills, for example. So um, yeah, that is the question. I cannot like choose just one,
Uh-huh.
but um, if I have to think about just one, um, I would say be a good person.
I
It's
love
so
that. I love that. How does a good person look like in a team? You can say like 10 soft skills if you want, or five.
you know I think of a good person, the first thing that I can is they have good intentions, they are honest, they always
Mm,
put others before themselves,
mm,
or they treat other people respectfully and in a correct manner. All, yeah, all the things that make someone a good person. What would you say it is a good person for you?
That's a great deep question, and I love it because I think one of the things we explore a lot at Core Code are those soft skills that many companies have told us are super important. I think you mentioned a couple. I mean you've mentioned like many, and I would say like the same thing as you did. I think you mentioned honesty and communication. Like no, like yeah, that's super super key. If you cannot communicate with your team, if you cannot speak or even present your work, it will be hard to be in the same page. So I would agree with you. That's something we also teach a lot in our programs. We always include that. But maybe taking one step before that, before like communicating who you are and what you stand for and your own projects, I think we've seen a lot that it's very important to first also explore who you are and what product you have. So a bit of like introspective mindset, to like start, okay, this is my project, this is what I'm doing, this is the intention. I think you mentioned that one as well, like good intentions is the intention. And now that I understand like what value my product is adding or what value I am adding to the team, now it's so much easier for me to communicate it. Right, if I know my strengths, it's so much easier to bring them to the table, and then practicing how to bring my skills and my superpowers to the table, that's also key. So I would think I would resonate with what you just said. Like I think those two might be super important in a team. What do you think of this? What do you like? Which soft skills do you like when working with a team or even learning? Abdias, by the way, he's one of the participants in one of our programs. So what have you seen that's also cool to have even in a learning space, right? Um,
Yeah, so I think having empathy with other people, and that goes both ways, because you can be learning, you can have absolutely no knowledge about the topic you're learning, and maybe you have some questions, and you want to ask the person that it's a little bit more knowledgeable than you, or you know that people just learn a little bit more fast that what
mhm,
you're learning. And so it is just about having empathy with the other person and make them feel like, okay, they're in a safe place where they can ask questions, and
mhm,
and everyone started at zero, and also having empathy with the people that are a little bit more knowledgeable or being in a position of leadership, because
Mm-hmm.
uh, people that are in these positions tend to have a lot of meetings, and having to talk with a lot of people and having to do a thousand things on a day. And so it is important to actually not only be like, okay, asking questions and everything, but also, okay, how can I make my coworkers, they like make it a little bit more easier for them, like
Mm-hmm.
maybe I can research from my own with my own resources. Nowadays pretty much you can Google everything, so it is not that hard, like I think it's first to ask Google, and then you can ask if it's like a really difficult question. But it's all about having that empathy with other people, and that and of course always trying to have open communication, because that
Mm-hmm.
is key. Because when you don't ask something, and you just keep that to yourself, and then I don't know,
Things.
you have to deliver something, and time is getting short, and everything becomes so difficult. So communication is key as well. And yeah,
Awesome.
that's what I think. And I think we have another question here.
Yes. Just maybe before jumping to that, I would
Yes.
love to like wrap up this thing, because I think we can say a lot of things that we find important in our teammates, but I think that the main question, like the one cool question that we can ask ourselves if we are just starting our careers or we're already in a team, asking ourselves, am I a good team member? That question, just like every day, like, am I being a good team member? Like, how am I contributing? And even asking our coworkers, hey, do you think I'm a good team member? I think that that also helps a lot, to be always aligned with your team. So yeah, now we can read the next question of this.
Okay. So the next question is how to build confidence if you don't come from an engineering background.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
this is someone that's actually participating also in one of the core code boot camps. Yeah.
Yeah, and maybe adding to that question, Andres, I think we didn't explore that much with you. So if you can tell us a bit about how you started your career
Hmm.
in development, I think that could also help answer this question.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. So I would start first with maybe with a question. So how do you build confidence? And no, confidence is not something that you can build from one day to another. And confidence is really built across maybe years of doing something, or when you are comfortable at some point by doing something that you already know. And
Mm-hmm.
the fun fact about engineering is that uh, most of the times you want to push yourself to uncomfortable zones so you can grow.
Mhm.
So maybe the trick there is to be uh, of have peace, to be in a place that is not, yeah, or in a position that is not fully comfortable, where you are just laying there. And about then, if we think about the skills are something that are built with practice, right? If you're just starting to learn something, of course you're not going to be a master, but as the more you use it, you're going to be faster, be more productive with using that. You will get confidence with it. And if you don't come from an engineering background, I believe, at least in the tech industry, that is not a problem. You have a lot of resources where you can learn a lot of things. And I think technology is so wide that you have a lot of things that you can choose from. Maybe you like to build UIs and something that you can see. You would like to build front end stuff, and later maybe you change careers, that you move from front end to be a designer. That is also okay, and it's also good. It's what you are happy doing, right? Or maybe you like more like thinking logically, and you want to do some backend stuff and see data relations, and that is your stuff. That is also good. So if you don't have an engineering background, you have a lot of resources. You can look into the internet, but at the end, I think one thing that has given me a lot of confidence is, even if maybe there's no engineer background, is learning good fundamentals, understanding how
Mm.
things work from the ground. Maybe you start with to give an example, you start using React to build web pages, but yet you don't know so much how HTML works under the hood. So really going deep and knowing how that HTML works or how that CSS works will give you a lot of more confidence there. Is and then at the end, it's all about filling the knowledge gaps that we have, and that way you will build that confidence, I believe.
Awesome. Did you have an engineering background when you start? Like, how was your path?
Yeah, you know,
Mhm.
for me, I think it was like cheating. Because since I was a kid, I always loved programming. So I learned my first programming language when I was like 11 years old on college. Um, so at that moment, I really knew I wanted to do something with software and writing code. So I then into the university, I followed a software engineer career. I'm graduating from that this year. I just have the thank you. I just have the ceremony pending, but all is all set up, and I'm just waiting for that. But to be honest with you, I have learned more from the internet than in any other place. So, because as I say, technology moves so fast, you have to get along. You have to run too. You have to run too, and always
Yeah.
be learning new things. So really honest with you, I have learned more from work, from other teammates, from internet, from paid courses than my official academic um, academic path. But that is also
Mhm.
true that the academic path gave me solid fundamentals. So the truth is if you don't get those solid fundamentals from like an engineering background, like a degree,
University.
you can go there to other resources, but be sure you are filling those knowledge paths.
Mhm. Awesome, amazing. Thank you for that answer. I love your career. I love how it resonates with many the stories of developers. Like I was 11 and I was just exploring computers and development, and that's great. And I think that's an amazing career. I would also love to add, here at Core Code, we have had lots and lots. Maybe most of our people haven't graduated from a degree, and they're already working at tech companies and super like both established and also startups. And I think something you mentioned is key, right? Of course, you can have the sources on the internet or at Core Code. The one important thing is that you're always curious about the curious and interested in the knowledge gaps that you find. So you're developing something and it's not working. You have two paths there. Like, okay, I was not born for this. Bye. Like, I don't like this. Or okay, why is this not working? Let's go find in Google. Let's go ask the Core Code community, and just asking those questions and maintaining that curiosity is something that we always see as a pattern in all the developers we know and all the developers we've met. So yeah, I love that you mentioned that curiosity thing. And before jumping, we have other questions in the chat, but I would love to hear from Abdias. Abdias is actually one of those cases. He's not. He doesn't. I understand that you don't come from an engineering background. So if you can tell us a bit about what your experience has been in like entering the development world without having a background and how you're coping with it or dealing with it. Can you tell us a bit about that before we jump into the questions?
Yeah, of course. So I'm actually a motion designer and video editor, and I have quite a bit of experience in that industry. And I just recently started, like 3 months ago, right? That we started the bootcamp and everything. I was starting to check some resources on the internet and everything, but I really took it seriously when I got into the bootcamp in Code, and it has been exciting, but it has been a little bit challenging as well because it can turn out difficult sometimes. Sometimes you feel like um, you really don't know what you're doing, and so it's like you're having a little bit of a block. But once you figure out how to solve a problem, a challenge, or how to build something, it's like a little like an inner breakthrough, like a kind of an epiphany, if you could say it like that, because it actually makes you feel like okay. And that's where Andres says that you start building that confidence of okay, now I'm able to do this, now I understand what this is doing, let's go to the next step. And then you're probably gonna hit another wall, but the important thing is not just to
Definitely.
just to
Definitely.
stay on the ground, but just come back again, dust the dust off, and just continue working and studying until you learn it. Because I've seen so many people that have actually done it, and from backgrounds that you cannot even imagine. Like for real, I know people that come from, I don't know how you say that, but
Mhm.
building houses and just
Mhm.
doing buildings and all that stuff, and they just start to learn computer, how to use a
Mm.
computer, and then how to use, I don't know, this document.
Mhm.
Apps and all of that, and then they start learning okay how to code and how everything, and they make
Mm.
it, and then it's like okay, this is amazing, like really technology is open for everyone. So yeah,
Mm.
that has been my experience, and I think it's
Awesome.
just about pushing. Yeah.
Ooh, I love that. I love that very much. And there's a phrase by one of the people I read that says like, um, you need to dare to feel like a fool for a while sometimes, in order to be transformed and then take the next step. Maybe that doesn't feel like confidence at the moment. That probably doesn't definitely doesn't feel like confidence in the moment. But maybe it's okay. Maybe it's okay to not feel confidence in that moment, and then just take the next step. And by taking that next step, just like looking back and be like, oh, cool, so we made it, right? But great
Yeah.
question, Carlos. I think that's a question that comes to everyone's mind, not only in the industry. I think that the whole thing about building confidence is a thing that we can find across industries and across roles. So that's an amazing question. And I'm bringing now Freddy Marroquin's question. He's actually also, but he's not a participant anymore. He graduated from Core Code, and now he's working at a multinational company. Actually, Freddy had not graduated from college as well when he got that job. So congrats, Freddy. We send you a hug. And his question right now is, what advice would you give to people who's starting in this field and wants to join a unicorn company?
Yeah, that is a good question. If you're just getting started, one thing that
Mhm.
you have to achieve at some point is mastery and the things you do. And
Mhm.
um, unicorn companies uh, are a small segment of all companies that there can be, and you have to look for them. You have to maybe it's not just I want to work at the unicorn company just for the sake
Mhm.
that it is a unicorn company.
Mhm.
Um, I would rather say say that you have to find the place that is best suited for you,
Mhm.
because um, there's in the groups of companies, you can think about their size. So one could be
Mhm.
really small, or could be, and others could be as big as Google, in example. So you have to aim for the things that you would uh, you align more to, because in
Mhm.
example in startups, really small startups, they tend to have more generalists because there's a few people and there's a lot of stuff to do. So generalists are best suited for those scenarios because they know about a lot of stuff they can build um, from the ground. But at some point, if the company scales and grows like Google,
Mhm.
then Google needs specialists or some
Mhm.
things so they can achieve like uh, th- is like things like only specialists can do in sample. So
Mhm.
uh, also the all the the culture and ecosystem on how it moves, it also move. It also um, depends a lot on the size of the company. So I would say it's not just if you want to join a unicorn company, I would say better look at uh, at companies that you like and their purpose
Mm,
and what they are doing, and then if the job offer comes in, you will be prepared to take that offer, right? So at the end,
mm,
it's just about growing you as a professional, and when
mm,
the opportunity comes, you have to be ready for that and take that, right? But at the end is being able to take in that opportunity if at some point it comes, right?
mm, mm. I love that answer because you're focusing because there is a hype, right? There is a hype in which okay, unicorn companies, I want to be there, but maybe it doesn't necessarily align with you. So great heads up there. I like figuring out first like what you value and your superpowers, and also then looking out and figuring out what other people, other companies. Of course, healthcare is an amazing, amazing company, unicorn company. But what if if you're not interested in the health industry, for example? So yeah, great. Thank you so much for that. On that note, like if people were interested in joining a unicorn company and specifically like healthcare, I've heard that you are hiring like senior developers mainly right now. Is that right, or are you hire? Have you ever hired like interns or junior developers? How is that working right
Yeah. What Right now we are looking more for mid to senior developers because of the needs we have right now.
Mhm.
But what I would say is that if you really think you have the skills for one position that we are looking for, yeah, don't hesitate to apply. Even if you don't fulfill all the 100% of the requirements, you should still, if you honestly believe you can do a good work on a position, you should still apply because we are happy to look at your profile and then do a interview process, right? So yeah.
now?
Um,
Awesome,
we are always open to see the people
great talent.
that applies for the positions.
Awesome. Great. Yeah. And if anyone like that's a member of the core code community, we actually like also we also communicate a lot with healthcare.com. So in any case you have any question about the positions, you can either visit their site or whatever, or you can contact us and we can ask healthcare all the questions you might need in case you want to apply, and in case you feel like the mission and the product aligns with also your values and what you can bring to the table. So great to know on that note. I just want to see, Abdias, if you have any other question, or if I can ask my last couple of questions.
Yeah, maybe just Andres, if you have some advice or I don't know a short tip or anything on how to develop the proper culture, taking in mind that you're working from home, because I understand
Mm,
that it is very important to have that work balance stuff, but also it's important that maybe you need to do some meetings, and it's definitely not the same to have Zoom calls that to be, present in the office and collaborating together and just throwing ideas at the board. So, do you have any advice or tips for that for developing culture?
Yeah. Um, Maybe it all depends on how how the team works, right?
mm,
Because if you use, for example, you see Scrum, you can see a lot of these ceremonies, and it really adapts all to this remote life because we can join a Zoom call together. Okay, we can review the what we did on the past sprint. We can get feedback. We can create new ideas. Um, so for culture, um, uh, I feel like when you go remote, it's more difficult to have casual interactions with people.
mm-hmm,
That in terms of how people work and how people interact, is mostly the same. Maybe sometimes it's just for a chat message or just for
yeah.
a Zoom call, rather than having the person right next to you. But uh, the only thing that really I feel like changes is the casual
Mm-hmm,
interactions. Maybe when you go and grab some coffee and that.
mm-hmm,
But I would say those type of casual interactions are important for people. But uh, I I the way I see is that they take a second place in how the the company culture really is. And
mm,
to facilitate also those casual interactions, what we have used is one-on-ones, right? Sometimes we can have a one-on-one with our manager or one-on-one with someone else, or uh, building an remote culture that facilitates those casual interactions. Sometimes I loved one uh, um, one dynamic that we had, that it was called chat roulette. So you were put together with someone random in the company. It was maybe some salesperson or something like another different business unit, and you just could
Mhm.
hang up with for 10 minutes and know each other. It was a really nice dynamic. So
That's so
uh,
cool.
maybe you can do that if you had the opportunity in the places you work, because those,
Definitely.
I believe those casual interactions are like the tricky part to do when you are in remote.
Mm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. And I love that both for like the workspace, but also for like a program. So definitely writing that
Mhm.
down. That sounds amazing. Like the roulette, that sounds so cool. Awesome. I'll just ask one last question and then I'll jump to the lastest question of the night or the day for watching us in someplace else. When healthcare.com became a unicorn, I understand that like you also started growing in team and in things that needed to be done probably. So I would just like to know if you're like if you had a a workload increase, and if so, like how what's your best tip for time management, since also I understand like when you're working remotely, not necessarily you don't necessarily have a 9 to 5, but you could go, I don't know, grab some food for a while and then come back and you do your deliverables. So how do you manage your workload, and do you have any tip for time management?
Yeah, let's start maybe with the workload. And as we plan for every sprint or the task that we want to accomplish, at that time is where we speak and we say, okay, this is the amount of work this is going to take, and I can do up here. So all these sessions that we have is really meant for that, to really adjust
Mm.
the workload for you. And of course, sometimes we need to build something else, and
Mm-hmm.
when
Mm.
we don't really have enough hands to do so, that's the point when we need more people to come into the board,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we
Mm-hmm.
can
Nice.
continuously have a good amount of workloads for everyone. And
Awesome.
in terms of time management, uh, I'm a really like this disciplined person. So even though I'm remote, I have my 8-5
Oh,
schedule,
okay, okay.
because
Yeah.
at least that is the way I manage my time personally, because
Mhm,
that way I can focus for this amount of time. Then I
mhm,
have my lunch, and
mhm,
I created this routine even though I'm in my
mhm,
home.
Mhm.
So then I know that I'm not going to have any distractions in this period of time.
mhm.
And the
Awesome.
only difference is that when it comes like 5 p.m. or it's my time to leave, it's like, okay, goodbye. Okay, goodbye. Then I just like close the working laptop, open my other laptop, or
Mhm,
go to the gym or do whatever. But at least for me, that works to have that, even
mhm,
though that have fits time window for me.
mhm. Oh, great. Yeah, and I think that works also for, because at the end, that's just defining focus work times. It can be 8 to 5, or if it works for some other people, like just 2 hours sitting. Because, for example, I in my personal case, I'm a very like moving person. Like I need to stand up and like
Mm.
do like diffuse for a while and then come back. But also like even if I diffuse for a while, I do need to set my own bulk moments. So this is focus time and this is diffuse time, and that diffuse time will also be used for something like creative or something that can then inspire me for the next bulk hour. So I love that like you're doing the 8 to 5. I also love that there are many options for all. I think that's an iterative process. But thank you for sharing yours. And now we are heading to the last question of the session. So we always have this pop quiz for all our guests and facilitators. And that is that if this was your last webinar, the last moment in which you had internet connection with all the community, what would you say to them? What advice or what comment would you give to people? It can be about professional life, it can be about personal life, it can be about anything. And I will invite you now to share, whoever wants to start, Abdias or Andres, what's your last message to the community?
Please, Andres.
No, you go first.
You have a moment to think. It's a big question.
Okay. Well, I did have a thought that
Mhm,
it kind of wanted to become a question, but it kind of stay
mhm,
there. And this I learned it from YouTube. One of the people that I like to watch. They talk about creativity and other stuff. But one of the things that I learned was that, and you could take it as an advice if you like to take it like that. Um, that it's good to have a balance between work and life, right? But it also depends on what your goals are and what do you want to achieve in life. And
mhm,
so for some people it's perfectly fine to work, and 9 to 5, and just rest on weekends and disconnect. But the advice that he gave was that, an advice that he got from his father, was that you can either do that and stretch your success through pretty much your whole career, or you can try to focus it in a few years, making a little bit of sacrifice a little bit of weekends and everything, and just get to that success in a relatively shorter amount of time. And that means that you can get to do whatever you want next. So if you want to, work coding your entire life, that's perfectly fine, right? And you can actually work in so many different environments. That you can work in the health industry, in the banking industry, in the creative industry as well. And so it's just about having a clear focus on what you want in your
mhm,
life, and just to choose how do you want to have your success. Do you want to stretch it out, or do you want to have it in a shorter amount of time?
Awesome. I love that because it invites us also to question what we want to do, how we want to spend our time, and that's amazing because we all have different values, and that's beautiful. I think that's how the world is made up, just by different people dreaming different things and doing things differently. So yeah, thank you, Abdias, for your message to the world. Now, Andres, what's your message to the world?
Since this is the last time I'm on internet, I I would say, um, try to help others and be happy. Or try enjoy the time you have. You just, it at the end we don't know how much time we have, right?
Mhm.
So whatever you do, enjoy that.
Hmm.
And if you get the chance, also share that joy with others, helping
Hmm.
them. If you have the opportunity to bless someone, uh, because you have the opportunity, do so, because I believe giving is also other thing that gives the greatest joys and best feelings for someone. So yeah, I would
I
say,
love.
enjoy whatever you do, and you decide to uh, do it because you are happy with it, and give your hands to others.
Hmm. I love that. Awesome. So we're wrapping this session up. Thank you both for really, really contributing to the community. That's just one thing you're doing right now. You're helping lots of people like generate new questions and just explore new worlds in which they're starting their career. So thank you so much for that. You're always invited and welcomed at Core Code anytime. And that being said, well, we're closing this session. Thank you so much for all who's
Okay.
watching us. Remember to subscribe so you can check out the next sessions. Bye bye.
Okay. Thank you.